With Khora Prime dropping right after Tennokan, I think it's worthwhile to talk about the melee build that goes into a Whipclaw. Because that's kinda a reason why people run her so much. Whipclaw's overwhelming damage combined with forcing more loot drops with her Strangle Dome. And the fact that she's the only frame that allows having two beasts running around her. To start off with, I think it's worth glancing over Khora's build for some direction. High range combined with some efficiency is the gist of almost any Khora build. Only exclusion being a Strangledome build for Arena. Range aids Whipclaw a lot, as well as Strangledome, all while efficiency is there to help you with the whip spam. This is my generic build for random missions with Khora. Some duration in there is mostly just for excavations. Khora has high armor, so you can benefit from running 2 Umbro mods, or even 3, because ability strength does add damage, as well as speed buff from Venari. Even though this build here is not one I use for endurance, I still run Pilfering Augment, just so we can increase our chances to get lucky when we see some enemies that we know drop some good stuff. It's worth noting that even if Strangledome does not grab an enemy, it can still make extra loot happen. Now on to the main course, melee build. Khora is one of the few frames where mods on your melee weapon affect her heavily, and there are a few ways you can maximize that depending on what level of a mission you're running. Not all melee mods affect it. There's a bunch of rules around it, so bear with me, and if I miss anything out, feel free to point it out in the comments. Mods that do count are damage mods. However, condition overload does not work. Critical chance, critical damage mods, that includes blood rush, status chance mods, but not status duration, which still means that weeping wounds works. Physical and elemental damage mods do affect it, and combo duration works in such way that with each combo multiplier, you're gaining 25% extra damage. Mods like melee range, attack speed, shattering impact, faction damage do not have any effects on the whip, but weapon augments as well as rivens with stats that I have mentioned above work and add a metric hecton of damage. So melee weapon choice does not really matter, apart from the riven disposition and maybe some augments. I have multiple builds that I run for Khora's Whipclaw, but I can bring it out to 3 builds. For my first build, I'll showcase one you've seen so far in this video. It's a build focused more on relatively quick missions and missions where I don't intend on focusing on maintaining the melee combo. Whipclaw has 25% critical chance, 2x critical multiplier, and 20% status chance, so stats you see on the side don't matter. So here with Sacrificial Steel and a Riven, I have about plus 600% critical chance. So with 25% base, we are looking at a total of about 165 total critical chance. So that's viable oranges. There's viral and heat there because it's a good combo. Rest is critical damage and damage. Simple build and effective. Works as well without a Riven. With this build I basically went through Cambion Drift and entire Entrati faction easy peasy because infested excavation with Khora is such a cheese. For non-steel path endurance, I just sacrificed a bit of critical damage and damage for some combo benefits. Rest is 100% the same. And sacrifice is worth it because, as we mentioned above, we get 25% extra damage with each combo multiplier. Here I have Blood Rush and combo duration, assuming we don't run Narrowmont's Cult to help it. But you can fit Weeping Wounds instead of the duration, and it'll still sing. I find Weeping Wounds to be an overkill for those missions because enemies mostly die from raw damage before status effects even settle in, but it sure helps against some heavy enemies. Talking about Weeping Wounds, Steel Path Endurance is where that changes, and this entire build as well. So much so that I use a different melee because of a different ribbon. But for Steel Path, Viral and Heat and all other elementals go out the window. It's pure raw damage, critical chance, critical damage, status chance, and slash. Because with Weeping Wounds and one of the slash mods, either Buzzkill or Karnus, you scale those Steel Path targets like they are nothing. Khora's build changes a bit for Steel Path. Accumulating Whipclaw is definitely needed. I forgo some survivability and ability strength for that in Equilibrium. Using Helmet to put Dispensary helps a lot with Whipclaw spam because in Steel Path, if you stop doing it, you do get wrecked pretty fast. I run mostly solo, so I have to run it with Dispensary. But in squads and teams where you have Necros, Equilibrium alone should be enough. Thing to note about Khora's Whipclaw is that damage explosion is not happening at the tip of her whip. It's actually happening at the nearest surface from the tip of the whip. That's why sometimes you can have some oddities where you feel like you've hit an enemy but no damage happened. It's just some surface at a weird angle was the nearest point, and that point just happens to not have a line of sight towards your target. So keep that in mind. Thank you for watching the video. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.